Hi, welcome back. If you are tuning in from the previous episode where we worked on updating our data normalization process for country and state, stick around because we are going to be talking about updating that process for normalizing your job title into job function and job level. However, if you did not watch that previous video, this video won't make any sense whatsoever. So please take a look at the video that is linked above or in the description and watch that first, because we are going to cover a lot of foundational elements that are really critical. After you're done watching that, come back to this video and check it out. But if you're here and you're ready to start talking about job title normalization, let's get started. So now the next step of this process is going to be setting the job function and job level values based on our job title. And so it's going to work actually very similar in the sense of we are going to have different branches for our job levels. C-suite executive, vice president, director, manager, individual contributor, other, and none. You will want to break this out further if you have different ways that your personas are built, but this is typically a great place that a lot of our clients really start with. Here, the logic, we're looking at calculated title level is equal to C-suite and executive, but the job title does not contain anything that has assistant or secretary. For example, secretary to the CEO, we don't want them to fall into the C-suite executive list. We want them to fall into an individual contributor list. And so we can combine utilizing some of our calculated fields that we're talking about with additional criteria to go a little bit further. Something that is really exciting and useful with these calculated fields is that the calculated fields are actually case sensitive. And so if you've ever experienced this, where you are trying to create something where you say, show me all of my titles that contain COO, and you start to get coordinator, you get cooperative, you get all of the variations that use COO in the name, which is a lot of job titles. By utilizing this calculated field, you can say job title contains COO, all capitalized. And now you're going to really restrict that false positive list. You may still get some people that fall into this. It's not a perfect science, but it's really helpful to get you further along the way. So for example, if you had coordinator and somebody typed in all caps and filled out the form, it's still going to show up in this list. But that is going to be an edge case as opposed to what you are typically seeing out of job titles that come through. So this calculated title property, we can once again copy and paste from the documentation, and you'll see here how it's being built out. If we have any of our major CTO, COO, CRO, entrepreneur, I think that I have a typo in that, entrepreneur, head, board, chair, founder, founding, all of those variations, we are going to normalize that into C-suite exec. You can change this, of course, if you just want to call it senior leadership or something to that effect. Next, we're trying to grab all of our VPs. So if we have vice president, VP, V.P, VP with quotations or with parentheses, for example, that's going to show up here in vice president. We do the same thing for director with a few different variations on director. We have a few different variations on manager. We have variations on our individual contributor roles as well. And so you can copy and paste this and modify it based upon the data that is in your database. But for now, what we are going to do is we will copy this. We would go into our properties, and then if we had a new field, we would do exactly what we had listed there. Under job level, we will break this down. I'm going to actually fix this one in my instance because we did have that typo in entrepreneur before. And we will click on save. Now, something to be mindful of is that the calculated field is great because it's case sensitive. It also is not super great when when it's case sensitive, and if you have somebody that's coming in and just typing in coordinator all lowercase, you still want that person to show up in your list. So some of this setup is going to be for you to be able to modify as you need to. In the branch logic, we've broken it down to just using the calculated title level. This is a great place to start, and you could run your database through. Actually, you don't even have to run the database through. You could just download your database with the calculated title field, and you could start to see, do I have titles in here that aren't getting captured with the calculated titles? So show calculated title as one of your columns with the job title. You can easily analyze that data to see, do we have anything missing? If you do have anything missing, simply edit your criteria and add some of those additional parameters. Maybe what you want to have is if it contains director all lowercase, then any of the variations are still going to get caught. Things that I would caution you against doing would be exactly what we were talking about the benefits of. COO, if you do lowercase COO, you're going to get a lot of different values because it's not looking for a direct match. Now, moving forward, we have different branches for each of the levels that we have identified. The other pieces that we have is other and none. So if we know the job title, but it's not matching any of the other criteria above it, we're going to want to set that job function to other. It's better to have other than nothing at all. And then we're also going to want to have a branch for none. And so what we will see here is that we have the title level field. It is a drop-down select field, and we have each of the data values populated here. So if you have anything to modify, you would make changes to this list. I always recommend still including other and none in that list. Then what we will see is that each of the sections, this is our title level section. Each of our sections are going to just set the title level appropriately. C-suite executive gets populated to C-suite executive, vice president gets populated to vice president, director gets to director. Why didn't I do copy data values like I did with the state and country? The reason for this is if you had any of those variations, if, for example, you were trying to do director, that lowercase director may not have populated in the calculated field. And so we don't want to just copy the data value over. We want to set the data value in this instance. After we get done setting the title value, we are going to move down into our function. So now we will see that we have a field called title function. Reason why I'm calling it that is that if you search for title, you get title, title level, and title function all at the same time. I think that that's helpful, especially when you're building out reports. But this could be job function, could be department. That is essentially what we are trying to identify here in this list. So same thing, we have a calculated title function, once again, in our documentation that you can copy and paste over. But here what we're trying to capture is our C-suite executive again, kind of its own function. But then if we have something like a CRO, we actually want the CRO to show up in the sales list, or anything customer success to show up in customer success. The CMO we want to show up in marketing. So that is how this calculation is built out, and once again can be modified to your business needs. We already know how to create that calculated field because we've now done it a few times together. So all that I want to show here is how we have built out the branching logic. We want this for each of our values. We have C-suite, sales, customer success, marketing, finance, IT, human resources, operations, legal compliance, consultants, education, other. We wanted this to be as comprehensive as possible as we share this out with you watching this video. However, you may not need all of these branches, and so only modify this to fit your specific business needs. And then it's going to work very similar to the previous title level, where when it falls into each of these categories, we are going to set the title function field to its appropriate data value. If it falls into marketing, let's go into marketing. Falls into finance, we're going to set it to finance. Everything then is going to end with the same property value, which is setting the property value for lead management status to data normalization is complete. This is a very important step because this is being used in our lead management process to indicate that all of our data normalization processing has completed, and now we can move forward into the next step. And the next step in our case would be lead scoring, which is going to be covered in a future video. So this covers the soup to nuts data normalization process. We started talking about this from normalizing our country and state values, and then we also broke this down into normalizing our job title into into title function and title level. You could build this out to support any of your key data fields that you may need to normalize in your system. Common fields that we see: industry, annualized revenue. You might want to break this out into employee count, and maybe you want to take it from a straight up number into an employee count range. That can be really helpful. So you can see how dynamic this workflow can be. Depending on how many workflows you have access to, you may actually want to modulize this further. You can see here that I have all of it being done in a single workflow, but in your case, maybe you want to break it down and you want to have country and state in its own workflow, and then you want to call a new workflow, and then that workflow takes care of all of your job title, and the next one takes care of all of your annualized revenue. That may work well for you. I know that a lot of clients kind of run up to HubSpot limitations with how many workflows you can use. So I like to try and build it out into a single workflow as much as possible. The most important thing is that all of these branches are normalizing into the same overall flow. And so as we zoom this thing out, you can start to see how dynamic this can truly get. I like to have everything centralized and kind of leading down. We do kind of deal with some of these breaking out, but overall, I think that is a very effective approach, and I hope that you will find this useful. If you have any questions on how this is built out, please ask us below. I would be happy to provide any answers to your questions. So now that we have the data normalization taken care of, there's two more things that we want to do. First, we need to make sure that it's called in our lead management controller that we've created already using previous videos. Take a look at those if you have not watched those yet. And then we also want to make sure that if any of these key data fields are getting updated, that they can go through a lead management process. So let's look at that trigger first. We like to create a very straightforward, simple workflow that is listening for key data updates. So here what we have is it's essentially an enrollment trigger workflow. And the criteria is going to be your property value has changed. So if your property value has changed for state region, job title, or country region, and any of those values are known, we want those to go through this process. In addition to that, we only want it to take place if the lead management process has already been completed. What this is trying to really resolve is we've gone through the order of the lead management process, that central order of operations process that we've created. And after the fact, there's a sales rep that went in and changed their job title, or they get enriched on the CRM and now they need to run through again. At that point, they've already gone through lead management and then they can get picked up again. We don't want this to take place while they're going through the process and creating a cyclical loop. First step that we're going to do is we are going to set skip lead source to yes. This is a custom field that we created for this process. If just because we change our country, region, or our job title doesn't mean that we want to also change our lead source data. So this field is set appropriately here, and then it is going to go to the workflow for our lead management process. Our lead management process gets a minor tweak since the last time that we visited this, and that is going to be as soon as it starts, the first step that it's going to do is it's going to check if skip lead source is yes. If it is, we are not going to go into our lead sourcing automation. Instead, we are going to update skip lead source to no, so that way the next time that they go through the process and they fill out a form, they still can get their lead sourcing updated. And then we go to the workflow straight down into data normalization. And then it can go through all of the process that we just created. So, with the complement of the trigger, the skip lead source, and the lead source controller, you can make sure that everybody has accurate data running in the database without messing up any of your first touch, last touch information that we've already set in previous videos. Now, I hope that this has been helpful. I know it's a lot of information. So if you have any comments or questions, sound off in the comments below. We'd love to be able to help you out. If you found this helpful, please share this with a colleague. It's really great being able to get this information in front of more operators' hands to really unlock the full potential of HubSpot and how you can use this tool beyond just sending out emails or setting up landing pages and forms. You can really use this to drive a lot of your key processes from a go-to-market operations perspective. Thank you so much for watching the video. Have a great day.